the importance of myth and what it shows us symbolically for our own personal development can give us that language of the soul and help us interpret our dreams and know when we're experiencing something archetypal. Welcome to Soror Mystica, a podcast exploring life's mysteries and magic through its symbols.
I'm Mariana Lewis, an archetypal tarotist.
And I'm astrologer Christina Farella.
And just as the Soror Mystica guided the alchemist through his holy work, we hope to be your mystic sisters in these conversations, guiding you deeper into the symbolic life. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 37th episode of Soror Mystica. And today we're finally doing the thing that we've said we were going to do for the last few months. And we're going to talk about dreams again, but this time rather than talking about the dream as a symbol, we're going to talk about working with our dreams. How do we work in their language, do the work of interpretation with them, and just kind of explore how to be dream people and understand how to make sense of them. I'm going to kind of start off with a disclaimer that neither Christina nor I are dream specialists or trained analysts or anything of the sort to give you like this is how you interpret your dream, clinical advice of any kind. And I like to say that because there are a lot of people out there that are very much trained in how to do that kind of thing. So this is all material that we have gathered over the years of studying dreams and discussing dreams together and being curious about this. And it's obviously totally okay to talk about dream interpretation because we all have dreams, so we all have an opinion. But if you are looking for something a little bit more professional, definitely check out, some other options and maybe even consider an analyst or something like that. If you have a lot of dreams and you want to figure out what's going on, having someone to guide you through that is always a great idea. So just want to put that out there. I also have a couple dream resources that I wanted to mention. One is Alyssa Polizzi, who we've mentioned on this podcast a lot. She's a very, very good, she has a lot of classes and workshops and stuff like that where dreams are folded in. And that's excellent. The other one is Maria Nasdravan. I've never said her last name before, so if that's wrong, I'm very sorry. But she's on Instagram as beginagain.space, and she is a trainee in transpersonal and trauma psychotherapy. So she's well-trained, and she hosts a dreamwork circle, which I've never actually attended, and I really have wanted to. It's just always been like a scheduling thing and just whatever. But they seem so cool, and each circle they'll talk about a specific symbol or a specific theme in dreams that we tend to encounter in dreams, or, a dream kind of just stuff that we techniques of working with dreams and just the overall themes and stuff. Anyway, so I really highly recommend you check her out, Begin Again Space, and we'll link her in the show notes. So those are the two resources I wanted to put at the beginning. And before we jump in as well, I haven't let you say a word yet, Christina.
Hey everyone, what's up?
Hey. Christina has a little quick announcement that she wants to tell you, and then I have a little quick announcement, and then we're going to get into it. So what's your announcement, great. Christina?
My announcement is that I second you with those two recommendations, and I've specifically worked with Alyssa Polizzi for a tarot/dream exploration, and she is so insightful and so good. Wonderful. So everyone should go check out her work. Her Substack's incredible, and her sessions are really wonderful. So that's that. My announcement is that it's a new month almost, which means that my books are opening again for astrology readings. So if you're interested in working with me one-on-one and you've been looking at my calendar and it looks like it's just closed forever, I only open my books for several weeks at a time because I have a Gemini moon and I need to keep myself focused or else I get very overwhelmed.
It's also because you're in high demand.
Oh, okay.
And you can't book yourself out for 4 months in advance because you'll be crazy. That's true.
Yes. Thanks, Mom, for the support. So for those reasons, my booking is a little bit scheduled. So if you are interested in booking a session with me, please check out my offerings. I have a signature reading called my Mythic Visions reading, which is going to do a lot of the work that we do in this podcast, but
Yeah.
in the form of your astrology chart. So charting your own mythic pathway through the use of asteroids is like my kind of specialty reading, but I also offer insight on your personal cycles, your transits, solar return, foundations of the natal chart, all that good stuff. So I'd love to work with anybody who likes this podcast. So I invite you to do so with me this June.
Yes, especially if you like this podcast. We want you
Yes.
and not other people because you're smart.
Yes.
And you know
actually.
what's up. So, great. That's awesome. Definitely do that. I think that everybody who gets a reading with Christina feels like something major has kind of shifted in their life and they have a lot more insight into the inner cosmos. So, highly recommend. As for me, I still have my doors open for Foundations of the Tarot, which is my beginner's workshop. It's a 3-part workshop for the people who maybe have just gotten a deck or maybe are curious about starting with the tarot and don't really know that much about it yet. So if you are the kind of person who's like, I've been doing tarot 15 years and I feel really good about it, but I do want to learn like a deeper approach, I always teach an archetypal approach to the cards, then you can definitely check out my Archetypal Tarot School, which is another class, a deeper class that I offer. But for anybody who is a newbie to the cards, my Foundations of the Tarot workshop will guide you through how to feel like you've actually mastered them, that you can retain their meanings, not through rote memorization, but through conscious relationship building, which is a special technique that I've developed, which is honestly 10,000 times more effective than just trying to memorize them. And then we talk about a lot of other things, the cognitive functions and the 4 suits. We talk about a deeper way to read court cards and how that applies to the Myers-Briggs kind of system. We talk about how to ask the right questions, how to get more accurate answers, how to work through the cards that we're stuck on and we can't make sense of. All of this stuff is part of that workshop. So the doors close June 8th because we start June 9th. Yeah. So you still have a little bit of time to grab your ticket. And that's all about it. So I really hope you come and I see you there. And if you have any questions, you can always kind of reach out to me on Instagram or, go to my website and there's a little contact form there that you can fill out to ask me any questions you might have.
Love it.
And
everyone should go.
Yes. Yes. And I think we're also ready to announce the next book of our book club.
Yes, we are.
Right. So the next book of our book club is The Flowering Wand, right? By Sophie Strand. And Sophie Strand is a very cool eco philosopher, scholar person. Very, very interesting. And so this is going to be a very cool book on sort of like on the archetypal masculine, right? And making relationship with that, which is, we don't see that a lot. So that's going to be a beautiful follow-up to our When God Was a Woman book that we just read. Yeah. And that's going to be what day?
It's June 29th.
June 29th. So that's it. So we hope to see you there. And those are all the announcements. We got through them all. We're done. And now we're going to talk about dreams. So I thought an interesting way to open might be to ask you, did you ever have a dream that changed your life?
I think I've had so many dreams that have disturbed me. But let's see. Okay. You know what? I can tell you something. I had a dream. This was back when I was living in Brooklyn. It was right before I met you. So it was probably 2014.
Okay.
I was living in that apartment on Ocean Avenue, and I had a dream at that time that I was standing on top of a really tall building in the city, and I was holding a little baby in my arms, and I was looking down at it, and it was so tender and like brand new, and I knew in the dream that the baby was me. So I was holding myself in that dream, and that felt very intense. And actually that dream occurred at, I would definitely say, the beginning of a huge, slow death and rebirth phase of my existence, like right before so many things happened to me. And I thought about that dream for a long time. And so that kind of, that shifted my perspective deeply on maybe what's going on in the internal realms.
Yeah.
Yeah. I told you about that one, right?
If you did, it was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah. You've told me several other dreams of holding babies that are probably
Yeah.
you or probably other people. But that's a theme for you in your dreams. I've noticed a lot of babies. We talked about one in the last episode, so go listen to that. Find out
That's
about her
true.
baby's dreams.
Find out why I'm crazy.
No.
What about you?
I definitely. I have a few dreams that I remember from childhood. Like I remember my first dream, not my first dream ever, but like the first dream that I remembered when I was 3 years old. Of like,
This is so Scorpio of you. What is
yeah.
wrong with you people? I
Well, it
can't.
was like a trauma dream, and like
Okay, but
my
still, that's very little. I really feel
yeah.
like Scorpio has this like ancestral memory thing that's just
Oh
like
yeah,
unshakable. So
absolutely.
tell me about your 3-year-old dream.
I don't want to talk about it. It was
Okay.
not good. There were people eating dogs, and I was very scared. But it was a silly dream. It was like a child dream, but I remember like, people paying attention to it around me and being like, there's something going on in this dream. And that was like my first little clue that like these have meanings, like these dreams have meanings for us. But I think that one of the dreams that really changed me when I first started my analysis, I had a whole series of them that were just like boom, 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 just like punching me in the face. And they felt really big, really, really big and really meaningful to me. And I, sat with them for years and years and years working with these dreams. So I think that in our episode today, one of the things that we want to hold at the center of this is that dreams can be completely life-changing. And that there's we're going to talk about some theories around dreams and stuff like that. But I have this one of the things that Jung says about dreams is that dreams are the guiding words of the soul. And I think that that's a beautiful kind of summary. We're going to kind of probably talk around that and get back to that idea. Dreams are the guiding words of the soul.
I want to jump in and like kind of just zero in on something a phrase that you used. You were talking about big dreams. And I think that one thing that's helpful in differentiating why, or maybe even not differentiating, but rather like justifying the importance of our dreams. We all, for the most part, everybody's dreaming, when they're asleep. I know that some people listening are probably thinking, I don't dream. I don't remember my dreams. And we're sorry. And we can talk about that another time. But for today, we have dreams that are, there are maybe 2-ish camps of dreams. There's like a dream that maybe is just mundane. It's like a flash, a vision, a feeling, something happening. Maybe it's connected to your day. It feels super superficial. And then there are other dreams that can contain elements of those superficial day world things, but they are really classified as these big archetypal experiences. And so I think that another, and Jung does use the phrase big dreams
often
in his writing. So thinking of, not that I'm an expert, by the way, I just sounded very official.
He does.
I just have read in his dreams book, that he uses that. So anyway, my point is, I think that figuring out what it is about a dream, if it is a big dream, that is so important, that is so life-changing, that can be life-changing if we work with it, is the focus mostly, I think, of today's show. And like, what does it mean to really engage these big dreams as a kind of pathway to the archetypal realms? How do we do that? And how do we make a practice of it? Because it's also way easier said than done. I think that dream work is really elusive. I think it takes a lot of practice. And all of these things are very hard to get a handle on. So you and I have been consistently working either in analysis or like on our own with our dreams, really trying to capture them and work with them. So it takes time to get to that place as well. But the big dream as a portal to the archetypal realm, I think, is like maybe the subtitle of this conversation.
I love that. That differentiation between the big dream and little dream, it's hard to put a finger on it. And sometimes when they talk about big dreams in the Jungian world, they mean like dreams that are almost transcendent. Like they kind of transcend our personal psyche. So those kinds of dreams will almost have an effect or speak to something collective. And I think for our purposes, we definitely, everybody has had some kind of weird little dream like that where they're like, this is maybe slightly prophetic or slightly like speaking to something larger than myself. And it's very hard to know when that's happening. I think one of the classic ones was like Jung dreamed of like an ocean of blood like sweeping over Europe, and or he
Oh,
had a
right.
vision of
Before the
that. I don't know
war,
if he had a
right.
dream or a vision, and then World War One happened. And so yeah, there's like sometimes these sorts of things will come that'll feel like these big dreams. But we're talking about a more personal way when we think of a big dream versus a little dream. We're kind of thinking of, like I had dreams last night that I can't even remember anything, but I just remember like trying to decide what I'm going to wear and being frustrated and not knowing why are my clothes in the china cabinet and, like all these kinds of silly things that also do represent something about us and have some kind of meaning. But the big dreams are those ones where we remember them. We remember them 15 years later. We remember them 30 years later, right? And there's something about the image, something about the symbolism that sticks with us because they say something about our psyche in a deeper way. They touch on something archetypal within us. And it's interesting. Mary Greer says the same thing about the tarot. Like that's the point of the tarot is it kind of acts like a dream where we're not really that worried about the little story of like the fussing and the what's wrong here and what's going on. We're always trying to zoom out into the big story and touch on the archetypal. And I
Which
think
you
that,
do so well, by the way. So
thank you. That's the purpose of I think what tarot really is and how we're trying to work with it. So in terms of starting discussing dream and how we dream and what we kind of can think of a dream. There's like this very classic Freudian idea of dreams are wish fulfillment, or another kind of idea of Freud was that dreams are a method of protecting us to stay and sleep, if we're in a story that we're not going to be woken up as easily. It's very interesting. That was like the first book on psychology I ever read. I was 12 and I read Freud's dream book.
Wow.
Because I was very ambitious and a
I
Scorpio.
love you so much. And I can't believe that you were in Queens and I was in Westchester and we weren't being friends because that's just great.
It was very cute of me. I found it at my grandpa's house and I was
Of
like, I
course.
should read Freud. Of course I should. I
Aw.
didn't understand 85% of it, but I did get the idea of the wish fulfillment thing. And I just remember thinking, I disagree so much and having such a inner conflict over like, but Freud's supposed to be so smart and I'm a kid and what do I know? And
There
now I
you
know
go.
my instincts were right. I disagree.
She's fighting the system, everyone.
I fought it. The idea of dreams being wish fulfillment. This is this Freudian idea, but we still very much carry it of like dreams show us what we want or what we don't want. One or the other. And if we take it deeper, if we take it into more of a Jungian way of thinking about it, or just I think the more general consensus of how we should look at it, if we have some kind of a psycho-spiritual orientation to the world, is that dreams are symbols of what's going on in the psyche and in the soul. Right. So every element of the dream has some kind of symbolic purpose. And so when we're working with dreams, what we want to do is work in the language that the psyche is giving to us. And it can feel very overwhelming. And it can feel very like, I do not get this. And this is kind of that we've talked about this a lot on this podcast, the difference between lunar consciousness and solar consciousness, the difference in the tarot between the moon and the sun, right? We try to understand it through the solar perspective of like, let's analyze, let's make sense, let's have one-to-one pieces and create, a dictionary of symbols here. And it doesn't always work like that. Each symbol is going to speak to some kind of unconscious element. And so dream work requires flexibility. It requires nuance. You're never going to say, oh, teeth falling out always means this thing. Right. Yes,
but
probably.
It's very misleading because there are literally dream dictionaries that will tell you that this is what this means. And so I think that it's really tricky to navigate the realms of dream interpretation because what ultimately you have to do is cultivate your own knowing of your own inner psychic vocabulary, which is really, really hard to do.
Yeah.
And so there's nothing wrong with like starting with a dream dictionary and being like, okay, I dreamt about geese and geese are a symbol of this. Like that's totally fine. But it's up to the dreamer, I think, to chart those experiences and remember like, what are the threads of synchronicity that have brought this image into
Yeah.
my brain. Like,
Yeah.
it's a very annoying practice at first, but it's very rewarding.
Yeah.
The other day at the beginning of, it was the beginning of Gemini season a few days ago, and I wrote a lot about Jupiter and Gemini, and I had this dream that I reached into a bag and I pulled out two little identical white parakeets, and they were both just like in my hand, like looking at me. And I was like, it's a cute dream. And then I woke up and I was like, parakeets, what? And then while I was on a walk that evening, I don't think I told you this, I was just like running my hands over these really beautiful flowers that somebody had in their yard. And I accidentally plucked some petals and I was really sad, but I looked in my hands and it was two white little cups of like rose petals. And I was like, oh, my
Look at that.
parakeets.
Those are your parakeets.
I took them home and I put them on my altar. But I think that that's an example of things that seem kind of fleeting, but
Yeah.
might actually be leading you to this little trail of knowing. So
Yeah.
is it because I wrote about the symbolism of twinning and Gemini
Right.
that day? Is it because I have some kind of association with parakeets? I do really like them. You know, are they little babies? Are they, symbols of friendship or
Right.
my own kind of twinning? So it's like we have to follow these these
Yeah.
threads through our own psyche.
Yeah. And I think that there is something to, I don't want to throw out dream dictionaries altogether because I have found very useful things in dream
Totally. Yeah.
dictionaries. I think that there are some symbols that do feel universal, like the snake, for example, right? When we see that, there is something that we all kind of connect that to.
That's the whole point of our show, right?
Exactly.
So,
I was going to say, this is sort of the point of our show is that we offer you a host of ways to enter a symbol. And so, the dream dictionary, they can be very useful in that way, but they can also be limiting when they say stuff like, oh, your teeth falling out means this. And so then we get like all stuck in that. It might be a common dream where we do associate losing teeth with losing power or whatever thing it says in the dream dictionary. That could be true. But I think that dreams are so personal and so unique. We really have to, just as Christina said, follow our own kind of symbolic dictionary that unfolds in our lived lives. And so this is kind of, I think the point of this show is to like give you many ways of understanding a symbol. And that's what we try to do when we're exploring our symbols, is not just say, well, this is what it means, but say, these are the 5 things that we've arrived at, that we different pathways in. Because I think that if we're talking about like the way of working with dreams, that has been standardized out there, especially in the depth psychological world, is you want to do association, which is what Christina was saying before, of like, what does the symbol mean to me? I like parakeets. I have this feeling around Gemini season, or this understanding of this idea of twinning, blah, blah. Those are your personal associations. And then you also want to bring in amplifications. Amplifications is when you look at a symbol and you say, what other things are out there in the world? Because this is engaging the collective unconscious. This is engaging that deeper kind of ancient symbolic memory. So maybe you go to your symbols book or your dream dictionary and you look up, what do parakeets mean? What stories have they appeared in? What myths have they appeared in? And then you can amplify that symbol and bring in other possibilities of what it might mean for you. That doesn't mean it has to mean that for you. It could be a very personal symbol, or it could be a very, archetypal symbol. And so that's part of the work, is just sorting and seeing what feels truer. And when something's right, when you get that little feeling of like, oh my God, that's the thing, right? When the body responds, when there's some kind of somatic response, often I usually say that's the thing to follow, because that's the unconscious lives in the somatic experience often. And so when we get the little tingle, a little rush, a little like, ooh, that sounds right, that's probably where the dream is trying to take you. So trust that too.
I love that. And I think that leads really beautifully into what I believe is true of dreams, and what you believe is true is that in dreams, we are encountering something numinous and archetypal. And so that body sensation, I think, is kind of the same feeling that we get when we are in the presence of something that we feel is sacred and special.
Yes.
You could be in nature, you could be in a temple, whatever it is, you could be in love, whatever, right? But that's that body feel of like, ooh, I'm in the realm of something that is larger than me. So I want to read from Jung's dreams.
Yes.
This is on page 79. And so he's talking about big dreams. So big dreams employ numerous mythological motifs that characterize the life of the hero, of that greater man, he says human, who is
Mm-hmm.
semi-divine by nature. Here we find the dangerous adventures and ordeals such as occur in initiations.
Yeah.
We meet dragons, helpful animals, and demons, also the wise old man, the animal man, the wishing tree, the hidden treasure, the well, the cave, the walled garden, the transformative processes and substances of alchemy, and so forth, all things which in no way touch the banalities of every day.
Mm-hmm.
The reason for this is that they have to do with the realization of a part of the personality which has not yet come into existence but is still in the process of becoming.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that idea that we're touching in with these mythic experiences
Yeah.
oftentimes in dreams, whether that's a dream of flying. We can see the flying person in like the image of Hermes or Mercury, or even in Daedalus and Icarus, who build wings and fly, and that has disastrous effects. There are mythic experiences where we meet the snake, the
Yeah.
sphinx, the dragon, whatever. And, so this is why much of my work is kind of based on the importance of myth and what it
Yeah.
shows us symbolically for our own personal development, not just because we're like living in a world where we need to be a hero and do things to achieve stuff, but it shows up in our dreams too, and can give us that language of the soul and help us interpret our dreams
Yeah.
and know when we're experiencing something archetypal. So, this is just my continual argument for why knowing myth is helpful,
Mm-hmm.
fairy
Yeah.
tale helpful, all of these
Yeah.
things.
Tremendously. It's been so helpful. And even when we're talking to each other about our dreams, we're often like, that reminds me of this story and that fairy tale and that myth. And it's so rich to kind of have that reflection.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's really important to think about, like Jung saying there that these big dreams show us something about our becoming, about our stepping into that, the balance between ego and self. What Edward Edinger, a well-known Jungian, says, the ego self axis, and how we kind of like are in on that axis and trying to merge these two things and
Mm-hmm.
have them be coexistent. And so that these big dreams are these guideposts in that
Yeah.
work of how we kind of bring everything together and integrate in what has been rejected or hasn't been realized yet by the ego. And so we're in that work of individuation. These dreams are guideposts in that journey.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Love that. And so, yeah, like I have a question for you. What would you say is the first step someone can take when they're approaching what they feel is a big dream? They know it
Mm-hmm.
has some kind of archetypal meaning, but they don't really know what to do with it. What do
Yeah.
you recommend to people?
You have to start with the symbols themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Something that I really like, Marie-Louise Lanfranz, is my idol, I think, for like who I want to be in this world one day. I want to be, I was just telling Christina, like when I'm an old lady, please just let me be an old German crotchety lady yelling about how to interpret your dreams and do them correctly, please. And she actually has, in the 80s, they did a video documentary series that's like 10 hours long
We're going to
called,
link it.
we're going to link it. It's called The Way of the Dream. It's on YouTube, probably legally. Very sorry, but grab it, watch it before it gets taken down again. It's been taken down several times. And it's delightful, and it is a long watch, but you will be fully entertained, I swear to you. And so in that, she says basically that, a dream gives you a problem. It presents a problem to you, and then it'll establish this problem. It'll establish what's the thing of the journey that you're after. Then it'll give you all the twists and turns, the work that's needed to be done or that's being avoided or whatever. And then it'll offer you a solution, or it'll offer you a catastrophe, I guess, if like the work is not initiated correctly, or it'll leave you off on a cliffhanger because maybe there isn't a resolution yet. Maybe there isn't a solution and more time needs to be processed. I'm thinking of that dream that you had where you got kicked out of the house because you
Mm-hmm.
walked in and there were all the ghosts or something,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
Mm-hmm.
nope, no solution yet. Leave now.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I think that when we're starting with a big dream, we can first of all know that structure. So we might be able to look at the beginning and say, what is being established here? What's the problem, or what's the bigger thing it's pointing to? And then what are the symbols? So I can use an example of a dream that I had years ago. It was one of these big dreams for me. I was in my mother's house, and you're sorting through stuff, and there was nothing really bad going on. We're just like, oh, there's so much to sort through, so many things to go through. And so just having that, and there's a lot of other crazy things happening in the dream. There's a crocodile in my porch, and it was dying, and it was, there's symbols to work with. I sat with the symbol of the crocodile for a long time. But that beginning part, we tend to toss that away. Don't toss that away. That established the problem for me in working with that dream. We're sorting through stuff and we feel overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. And so I was in my mother's house, like my childhood home, sorting through stuff and felt overwhelmed. So what that problem was, what this dream was about, and I was in analysis at the time, it was saying you're trying very hard to sort through all of the experiences you had as a kid and make sense of them now. And you're in your, childhood home, right? So there's this looking backwards element. So take those cues very seriously and say, what actually is it pointing to is the work that I'm doing and the thing I'm trying to do. And then that symbol of the crocodile that came up later, as I was like, oh my God, I found a crocodile as I'm sorting through things and it's dying and it's been forgotten here. Then from that point, I had to figure out what's the symbol for me. I did the work of amplification, of looking at other things. But I had to do a lot of work of association. Like, this is something scary, but in this dream, it's something wounded. What in me feels like it's representing this archetypal energy, being both frightening and weak, right? And at the same time. So that's kind of, I think, that first point. You can think of that structure. What's the problem, or what's the theme being established at the beginning? What's that middle stuff that's telling us this is how you work through it? This is what you have to look at. This is what you have to understand. These are the symbols that you have to address. And then at the end, once you get through that work, then you can kind of think of, does it leave me with a solution?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Does it leave me with no solution and I have to be patient as I wait for more to be alchemized here and to be understood and sorted through? Or does it leave me with a disaster? And is there a slight warning in the dream of like, if you continue this way, it's not going to be good for you. And there's something else going on there. So those are things I think to start off paying attention to.
Yeah, I love all of that. And I love the idea of like looking back and also looking forward. I think that's an important thing that dreams also do. They pull us into this reflective place. Even if you think back to like what happened to me yesterday to have created the elements of this dream, or what's something from my deeper past that is showing up in this dream. So we look back, and then we're also trying to like look forward with the dream, because we want to do something with it. We want to move with it so that it either changes us, even if it's just going to like change our mood for the day or change what we're looking for on our daily walk or something, or the solution perhaps to a bigger problem that we have, or no solution, continued chaos. It could be anything, but that backwards forwards thing is very important, I think, in dream interpretation.
I think a pet peeve I have often is when people say something like, oh, I dreamt of this, but of course I did because I watched this movie the day before. Like Leonardo DiCaprio was in my dream, but of course I did because I watched The Revenant. So of course he was in my dream. Take those things seriously too, because Leonardo DiCaprio showing up in your dream is still a symbol of something for you. It really is. It still is. And I think
my Adam Driver dreams.
Like your Adam Driver dreams. Who did I dream? I dreamed of Ao. What's her last name? Do you know who I'm talking about? She was in The Bear.
Yes, Debris. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but I love her.
Yes, I dreamed of her recently, and I was like, why are you in my dream? That's fun. It's a symbol for something. And those are the places where we can really dig into like associations. What do I associate with this person? Because celebrities, other people in our lives, all of these things are containers for the archetypes we project onto them. And sometimes the complexes that we project onto them. And a lot of our dreams are about our complexes. And when we're talking about complexes, it's a very fancy term for like these little pockets of our personality that develop as protective mechanisms against some kind of wound that we have, right? So maybe we're hypercritical of other people because we are very uncomfortable with our own sense of failure in our life or something like that. These are ways that we have like a little piece of the personality that doesn't really fit into who we are or who we want to be. And it's just a response mechanism. And so often our dreams will be, these are usually the smaller dreams rather than the big dreams, but they'll kind of be poking at that, looking at that, showing us that. So when we see people or things in our dreams, even when they seem kind of frivolous, they're holding the projection of something. And so it's always important to take that seriously.
Details really do carry insight, even if you think that they're
Yes.
silly. One of the
Yes.
things that I love to do is just like write out everything that I interacted with in my dream or saw or remember. You're remembering it for a reason, even if it's like a random room that was totally unremarkable to you. I think that what I've learned this year is that each of these pieces of the puzzle does actually hold some kind of key to what
Yeah.
your psyche is telling you. And, you know, I think that it's also important to do that work so that we learn to trust our dreams,
Yeah.
because we live in a world that tells us that dreams, like art, are inconsistent, unreliable, not, relevant, unscientific, and therefore discardable. And I think that part of the really important work of both of our practices is reclaiming the importance of the dream language for
Yeah.
artistic reasons, and then also for the integration of our personal psyche. It's really, really important work. So not letting that just be dismissed as, oh yeah, I saw this person in my dream because I saw them the other day.
Mm-hmm.
They're showing up for some reason,
Yeah.
and it's worth exploring. So don't let people dismiss or take away your dream vocabulary. I
Yeah.
think that's important.
And take those things as synchronicities. Like there might be a reason you saw that person the other day and then they appeared in your dream. I very much believe that what's trying to go on internally will also project outward. You might have even needed to bump into them to kind of bring that image forward. The psyche might even have like, that's the person I need to see to get you to get it. That's the person you have that projection on. So
Mm.
let's bump into them and make that happen, and then screw you up for a week and make you dream about them every day, torture you.
So great.
Love it.
Mm.
I think too, when you start to take your dreams seriously and you start to really listen, they will get more serious.
Mhm.
That's a thing that happens as well. I really have noticed that. Um, when, there's definitely people who are listening that are like, I don't really dream though. And as we said at the beginning, you do. You're not remembering them. If you don't dream at all, then there's something else going on.
Yeah, you're not getting
That's
good sleep.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's probably something along your nutrition, maybe all these kinds of things can lead into our sleep quality and stuff like that. But
I
we
have a
all
good
dream.
lucid dreaming technique that I
Ooh,
can
tell us.
share.
Yeah.
Okay, so I learned this when I was like just in college because I was having night terrors every night and I wasn't sleeping. And that was really bad. So I found a book. I wish I still had it. And it gave me this technique. So I didn't make this up. But anyway, as first of all, you have to have a good bedtime routine if you feel like you're not dreaming. This is my Virgo sun stepping in and telling you that you need to like have some chamomile tea, do some deep breaths, make sure that your room feels safe and chill and secure, and just like kind of tune into the body as you're relaxing. A lot of us like throw ourselves into our bed after a long day and just, it's totally relatable. But I
Mm-hmm.
think if you're not dreaming, you do have to kind of like do some somatic signaling to your body that it's time to be going into sleep. Number one. Number two, when you're laying in your bed and you're all comfy, in your mind's eye, so close your eyes, in your mind's eye, imagine your own hand, not a random hand, your hand with like your manicure, your jewelry, if you have like a birthmark on your finger, whatever, it has to be your hand. And as you are falling asleep, imagine that you're counting down on your fingers 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, over and over again with your fist opening and closing.
Mm.
Eventually, what happens is you fall into a dream that you're counting on your fingers. And from there, you can actually take yourself into whatever dream landscape meets you. So
That's
this
wild.
is a way of like guiding yourself into a specific scenario. If you have a plan, if you're like, I need to confront this demon of mine in my
Good luck.
dreamscape tonight, like I'm going to find them and I'm going to go into this particular dream. Or if you just want to make sure that you get into a dream and then see what happens, it does work. I promise. I've done it millions of times. It takes a little practice at the beginning, but it's worth trying. So if you do try it, let us know. And I hope that that opens the dream door for some of you if you are needing a key.
That's crazy. You should make meditation where you
Yeah.
guide someone through it. Someone commented on it. Did I show you this? Someone commented on the YouTube, our last YouTube video that we posted of the podcast. It was like, Christina's voice is so hypnotic or something like that.
That's so cute.
I was like, I know.
Oh, that's very sweet.
That's really interesting. And that kind of leads into like the technique that we mention here all the time of active imagination, which is where you take a symbol or you take a moment in the dream that kind of stuck out to you and you bring it into a sort of lucid dreaming state, but you're awake, where you're just trying to re-engage in the moment, put yourself in there via the imagination and just watch how it unfolds. Is there a way to get closer to something? Is there a way to change how something goes? Because the idea is that you're saying to the unconscious, okay, I'm listening. We're back here, but part of my consciousness is alert. What is it that I was supposed to do, right? Something that I find really interesting too, that I think it's Marie-Louise Monfrance who said this as well, is that there's a few types of dreams. A lot of the dreams are compensatory. They're about compensation. So we're compensating for what we're not getting right, frankly, in our waking life, how we're deviating from our path, how we're living through some kind of complex or some kind of issue rather than understanding what's true and a more authentic experience of self. So the dream is a compensation for how we're just messing it up a little bit. So they're like, hey, alert, alert. This is what's going on. But we can even sometimes see the dream ego as us in the dream. And just as real things outside of us can have an effect and can make us alert and say, oh, wow, I didn't even realize that about myself. Or I'm all of a sudden paying attention to this pattern I have. The dream can have the same effect on our real ego. So we can have a dream and wake up and be changed just from having that experience in the dream. And I definitely think that that's happened to me a couple times. And those are those big dreams too, where they have such an effect on us. The dream ego is still part of the ego. And so the ego experiences something as if it was real on some level. And we can it feels big, it feels really transformative. And so I think that that's something to remember and to honor, that they can be that big. I am scared of lucid dreaming, so I don't know if I will take part of that. The one time I had
Why are you scared of it?
I only one time ever had a lucid dream, and I got kicked out of it. Someone kicked me down the stairs, a ghost or something, and I realized I'm not supposed to be here and awake, so I need to not do that again.
Yeah.
So now they scare me very much, but
don't be scared, everyone. It's okay.
I got kicked down the stairs by a ghost. It was literally I was like, oh man, I'm conscious here. Cool. I should explore and figure out what's going on. And then all of a sudden someone kicked me in the back and
That's so
they were like,
interesting. You
out.
Literally got kicked out. Wow.
They kicked me and then I woke up immediately and I was like, okay, I got it. Not supposed to be here, conscious. That's fine. But I think that the idea is to bring part of it into consciousness, right? So it's okay to go there and to do that and try to think of it as
the reason that I started doing it is because I was just having really bad dreams about a specific situation that I was having experience with at that time. And I couldn't stop obsessing over it and feeling anxious over it in my day life and feeling hurt by it in my day life. And so it would show up in my dreams, and rooms would be on fire and I would be having to face this person or this situation.
Yeah.
It was really, really just overwhelming. And I had never had that before. I've had bad dreams my whole life, but it was a particular kind of sleep paralysis plus absolutely terrifying scenario kind of thing going on. So I had to do something, and it did what I used it for was to confront this particular situation, conjuring it in my dream and putting it right in front of me and, telling it to get lost, telling it to scram, telling it, that I'm strong, whatever, and kind of shrinking it, actually imagining this situation visually shrinking in front of me, because in a lucid dream, the whole point of it is that you can do what you want. You can fly away if you want to, or you can, knock down a building. You can just, things happen as per your vision. So I used it to shrink my emotional, reactions
Right,
to
right.
this situation,
The
and
fear and stuff.
it was really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a variation of active imagination,
Yeah.
but literally taking it into the dream world. We are trying to confront it. I think that often we get on this podcast, people ask us about like nightmares and things like seeing scary stuff. We get, we're always asking for people to send us their dreams, and please send us your dreams. We love them. A lot of them we don't do on the podcast because they're so scary.
Yeah.
And people have really, really scary dreams, and we will tackle a scary one every now and then, but sometimes it's like, this is heavy. It's a lot to kind of try to parse through in 10 minutes. But, when you have those dreams of being chased, attacked, threatened, all of that, just keep in mind, these are always shadow dreams. Always. There's always something in the shadow that feels scary to us. And I'm not saying that this is always the right answer, but often the answer is, as Jung says, turn around and say, okay, so devour me then. So come get me then. Because the idea is that the more we run, flee, avoid what the shadow is trying to have us witness, the more that we just stay running, fleeing, avoiding. It's not always the case. I think we've even said on this podcast, we were working with someone's dream and we were like, maybe don't look at that yet. Maybe take time. I don't remember which dream it was. But I think that in general, that's one of the ones we get asked about a lot. I'm being chased, or I'm being pursued, or there's this really scary image that keeps coming up. Sit with the symbol. I think what you did was really brave to do that. I definitely would not have had the guts to. So just sit with the symbol and try to engage it, because there's something that feels very threatening to the ego in those types of dreams.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that on that note, we can wind ourselves down here probably. And I hope that we've given people a lot of food for thought and dream fodder. And I love talking about this. So I think that we'll definitely do others. Our very first episode was about the symbol of the dream. And so now we've done this kind of convo around interpreting, but there's always so much. So if people have questions about this material that feel could be touched on in a future episode, feel free to share that with us.
Yeah.
We're all ears.
And I just have one book recommendation for anybody who wants to get started, is Inner Work by Robert Johnson. Very approachable. He talks about dreams, and he talks about complexes a little bit and these sorts of things, but it's very, very approachable. So I highly recommend that if you're trying to figure out how to start working with your dreams, because it'll walk you right through it. So, and watch The Way of the Dream by Marie Louise von Franz, and then come over on Instagram or leave a comment wherever, on Apple Podcasts or something, and tell us if you watched it, and tell us if you loved it, and tell us if you also want to be Marie Louise von Franz when you're 85 years old. And that's who you want to be when you grow up.
Remember to do all that, and we'll see you.
See you soon. Well, we're going to talk about a dream now, an actual dream.
Yep. Okay, cool.
Okay. If you're enjoying this podcast, we encourage you to leave a review or learn more about how you can support us on Mighty Networks, where you can get access to some exciting exclusive offerings. Or you can connect with us by sharing a symbolic experience, whether from a dream or synchronicity, for us to explore on the show. Thank you to today's sharer, and please tell us your symbolic experience or connect with us on our website, sorormysticapodcast.com.
Are you a small business looking to reach a targeted audience of people interested in all things esoteric? If this sounds like you, Soror Mystica would love to invite you to become an ad partner. We offer a highly tailored audience of mindful, curious, depth-seeking listeners, and we would be delighted to showcase your business and offerings to new hearts and new minds. Simply fill out an advertiser application form at our website, linked in the show notes below, or navigate to sorormysticapodcast.com/advertise with us.
Hello, my lovers of tarot, astrology, and the symbolic. Would you like to go on even deeper dives into topics that are even more niche and specialized and fascinating? Perhaps you'd like to explore angels in the tarot, or beasts in your dreams, or the thresholds of astrology. This is just a sampling of the bonus episodes we have over at our cloister. So go in the show notes and click the link and join us in even deeper conversations. We really hope to see you there. Sophia Core is a modern-day Renaissance femme who focuses on supporting individuals in reconnecting with their intuition and building a life that aligns with decolonial practice and process. Her books are currently open for consultation and coaching for those who are getting ready to travel through the underworld or who are on their way back to the surface and ready to align their lives with their values. Book yourself in for a free discovery call and make sure to follow them on Instagram. Their handle is in the show notes below.
So we picked this dream because it exemplified what we were talking about pretty much in terms of the sequencing of dreams as having a kind of exposition, middle, and then potential end or solution. So it's got a little bit of a narrative. So I'm going to read it and we'll talk about it on the other side. So our dreamer writes, I stand in front of an old castle and enter. To the left, there is a coffin with RIP written on it. I know that a woman lies inside who looks like Nina Hagen and somehow belongs to the castle or is even the mistress of the castle. And for those who don't know, Nina Hagen is like a German punk 70s, 80s musician, and you should look her up. She's really cool. I wear the shooting star shard around my neck, the same shape necklace that my husband gave to me the evening before the dream, and know that it is what can bring her back to life. I open the heavy door. Upon entering, I think to myself, oh great, they've opened the castle to the public and you can visit it. I know that I am familiar with the castle. I look to the right. There, an old man is playing with his grandson in a kind of showroom. I know that the grandson is powerful and intimidating without seeing him, as if he is a great wizard like his mother. I go to the showroom. The old man recognizes me and hesitates for a moment because he knows that one should not approach just like that. But I say hello very cheerfully and naturally. I choose the way I say it and decide against fear. And then the boy turns around, looks at me, and is so impressive. He is very happy. The old man says, do you remember Teresa? The boy runs towards me and I see his face. He looks very much like his mother, cute, like the boy from I Need My Monster. That's a book my children, that for my children, my child read.
Yeah.
Then the dream ends. What is the symbol of the coffin about? Is what the dreamer is asking. Is this a part of my personality that I'm now being able to bring back to life, or that wants to be brought back to life? So what is going on here?
And also for context, the dreamer's name is Teresa.
Exactly. Yes.
So when they say, do you remember Teresa?
That's her.
That's her.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. What are your first thoughts?
My first thoughts are that it's such a clear dream. And I think it's really interesting that we've got like the old man and the little boy in there. Those symbols stick out really well. The Nina Hagen woman is also interesting just for like my own associations with that person.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that in general, we've got like the woman, the Senex, and then the puer, the little boy. So there's lots going on here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. This is, as Christina said, it's like this nice structure of it establishes the problem or the situation, the theme of the dream. And there's stuff that happens in the middle. She enters the castle. She has thoughts about what's going on here. She meets these other characters. And then there's some kind of resolution. The resolution, not a big resolution, not like, and that's another thing we should mention, like the resolutions you get in your dreams are very rarely like, this is what you should do now.
Yeah.
It's like never that. It's always like, and this is how it turns out, or this is like the next thing that happens. And we just kind of leave you there. So in this one, it's that there's a question of, do you remember yourself, basically? And then the boy appears, comes to her, right? So that's kind of the resolution of the dream. So the problem that's established in the beginning is that she's in front of an old castle, and to the left, there's a coffin with RIP written on it. And the person is Nina Hagen. And we know that this person holds a projection probably for this dreamer, right? There is something that an association she has with this this with Nina Hagen. There's some kind of, maybe she sees herself in it. Maybe she sees a past version of herself in it. Maybe she associates it with somebody else in her life, and there's a projection around them, right? So that's where we would do that work of association to find out, what does this person really represent for me? And it's always weird to do that, especially with celebrities, because you're like, I don't know.
It
But
can
let
be
it be.
embarrassing. It's like,
It
I don't
can be.
know. But no, there's definitely something there. So yeah.
There's nothing more embarrassing than talking to your analyst about Adam Driver.
Literally for multiple sessions because he keeps showing up in your dreams.
I've had to do that too. I had to do it with
that guy from The Americans.
Matt. Yeah. What's his name? Matthew Reese.
Yes.
I had a crush on him. That's why he was in my dream. But that's okay. But I think that, so we see like there is a place, a location, and a death. And so that's like the kind of problem established at the beginning. Mm-hmm. There is right outside this castle, which is a place of enchantment, mystery, magic, wonder. It's not a house, it's a castle. There's something magical
hyper specific. Yes.
Yeah. There's someone also who has just died. And this person who has just died is somebody who's very powerful and magical as well. Even later in the dream, they say that they might be a wizard like the mistress of the house, right? Like this person who's died. So there's this feeling of magical power in this person who's just died. And so that's kind of establishing the theme. This is about some part of you, probably, that has either felt like it's passed away, right? That's been lost. And this part of you is in some way associated with enchantment, magic, power. It's something that is very strong and not part of the mundane experience of yourself. And even, I don't know anything about Nina Hagen. I don't know your experiences with her either, but I would say she's probably larger than life, a pop star kind of a thing, someone who's really out there, like
she's
not
like
a normal
glam
person.
goth punk person with like hyper performative stage makeup, crazy hair. She was like a fashion icon as well as a musical icon, and just like influenced a lot of other people, like Susie Sue from Susie and the Banshees, who also does that kind of high glam but like punk thing. So yeah, there's a fierceness to Nina Hagen that is really specific. It's like she's like this snarling, independent, almost like maybe like a Lilith figure or something like that. Not for not for male consumption necessarily. So
gotcha.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway.
So it's very like, it's a very like empowered female figure. So that part has died, and there's RIP. So there's some kind of like display of this. It's really out in the open. It's right there. So that's the problem. The problem is what has died. And the question that they left is like, is there a part that's now able to bring back to life? And I think that's an interesting question, because there's nothing in the dream that suggests that this person is being brought back to life. Right? They're outside and they're dead. And that doesn't mean that there's not part of them that is still floating around. Their energy's still there. They're still being like referenced in a way, but they're not necessarily like talking about how to resurrect this person. So there's something.
The only thing though is the little boy, who I think is the symbol of that sort of like rebirth, special child, whatever, divine child, archetype.
So there's something in the dreamer's experience of the dream that like connected with the idea of resurrection, right? So there's probably a feeling experience there of like, is there something about bringing this person back to life? A question that was like left with the dream ego a little bit. And so that is interesting to hold. Like that's where you went with it. And that's the association that came up for you. So this idea of what is the part that has died? What is it about? It has associations with power, potency, magic, enchantment, all these things. And, you're in a magical place. So then looking at like the middle portion of it, all those little details are, if you were to work on this dream, like if you had a similar dream, you would sit with the shooting star, right? So this is a symbol. You literally got this gift from your husband. And so that touched your psyche in some way, that it symbolized something for you. What is that symbol? We just had an episode on the star, so maybe you should check that out. But of course, with stars, we're talking again about like very magical, very enchanted, very like, celestial, cosmic. These shooting star is also like something we associate with like being special,
Mm-hmm.
right, and
Yeah.
rare,
Yeah.
and like
You
once in
can
a
make a wish
lifetime.
on it.
Exactly. Yeah. So all those little symbols, the castle all of a sudden being open to the public.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a private experience anymore. So there's something about, and that's a good thing to you in the dream. You think, oh, okay, so this is not just a private experience anymore. There's other people are allowed into this magical place. And I love what you pulled out of this tension or this opposition between the Senex and the Puer. And that idea that Christina's referencing it comes from Jung's idea of like the Senex being the old man who is kind of connected with like the hermit and the tarot, like the old wise man archetype. And then the Puer being like the divine child who is full of life, has no problems. Nothing wrong with him. Everything's
Everything's
great.
great. Thanks.
But very special
Mm-hmm.
also. So the old wise man and the special divine child, and that really being symbolized here too. That's a very interesting juxtaposition.
Yeah, I think that what caught my ear is that the little boy winds up approaching the dreamer, but the old man is still kind of like a barrier to
Mm-hmm.
accessing the young boy. And
Yeah.
it reminds me the castle and the old man feel like two layers of like psyche
Yeah.
protection or like
Yeah.
guarding something, because
Yeah.
castles to me are very they're made of stone, they're heavy, they're obviously, fortress
Fortresses.
like. And
Mm-hmm.
um, that reminds me of the principle of Saturn, which is about creating a boundary and having this immovable stony face that is going to age and last for a really long time.
Yeah.
And then the old man too is that sort of Saturnian
Right.
Senex, whatever, wise old man figure. So what about these like layers of guarding that little boy inside is also happening for you, the dreamer?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And she says that she knows that it's the grandson that's a powerful and intimidating figure, a great wizard like his mother. So that kind of reiterates that idea of him being the reborn version of the one who's died. So I would sit with that symbol too. What does that
Mhm.
feel like for you to sit with this version of yourself has died, but it's being reborn in a different way? And you mentioned as well that, that his face looks like this kid from the cover of this book that
Mhm.
you read that's for your children. So there's an association there too. Like what does that book connect to you about your own inner child and how you relate to your children too, potentially
Yeah.
that could be part of it, certainly. um, I really really like this ending of the like him coming up to the mother, up to her, to the dreamer, and looking at her and like approaching her and like being close there. That is the resolution. The resolution is that there is a face-to-face connection with this archetype, a looking eye to eye with it. And there's also a question from the old man, from the old wise man, the Senex, who's not as engaged and magical and kind of whimsical as the divine child archetype, but is, as you said, more Saturnian and direct, and says, do you remember yourself? And I think that
Yeah.
that is a very important question to continue to sit with.
Yeah.
Who is he
That's
talking
like,
about? What version of you, right?
mm-hmm. That's the heart of it. That's probably
Yeah.
the heart of the dream. So,
Yeah.
mhm.
It's the resolution, right? It's like this is what you need to do. You need to ask who is this person to me, and then you need to look eye to eye with this new feeling or this new archetype. This what is that for you? So I hope that this kind of gives like a little summary of like how do we kind of piece it together. Did we get it, like the answer of it? Of course not, because that's not how dreams work. There is no like, oh my god, I need to quit my job, move across country, duh. It's never how it works. It's always just like what is the thing I don't quite see, and how does it come through? And this feels
Mhm.
like a big dream to me. What about
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, I agree. This is definitely a memorable big dream. So, thank you, Dreamer, for sharing this with us. And hopefully, we've helped, open a couple of other doors for you to explore in
Mm-hmm.
interpreting this.
Cool.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that we're good here.
We did it.
And everyone check out Mariana's class, book a session with me if you want to talk to me about your stars, and we'll see you next time.
Bye. Thank you for joining us in our conversation today.
Please consider supporting the podcast by leaving a review and following Soror Mystica wherever you listen.
You can also become a more active supporter and a member of the Soror Mystica community by joining us on our Mighty Networks platform.
If you have a symbolic experience that you'd like to share with us for the podcast, you can tell us all about it at sorormysticapodcast.com.
The music for this podcast is written and performed by me, Mariana Lewis, with special thanks to Stefan Lewis. You can connect with both Christina and myself on Instagram and get to know our work by clicking on the links in the show notes.
As the alchemical motto goes, as above, so below, as within, so without.
May this ancient wisdom continue to guide you deeper.
Until next time, take good care.